Welcome to the Tech Show. We've got a new bike from Pivot, a new Phoenix downhill bike. We've got the new Rimpact chain damper, and we've also got all the hottest trends from this year's downhill. The final downhill from Mount St Anne happened over the weekend, and gee, what a race. Of course, you can catch up on all the racing on Discovery Plus and Max in lots and lots of occasions, so yeah, hopefully you can find it, or hopefully you watched it. It was a really cracking race. It feels like this year, lots and lots of teams and lots of brands have really pushed things forward in lots of different ways, and we've seen lots of new tech developments, which we're going to run through now. Obviously, if you've seen something and you want more on it, let us know. Okay, we're going to look through, and I think the first thing that I think we saw lots and lots of, and with lots of different teams, was tuned mass dampers. A really brief overview, these are not dissimilar to harmonic dampers, which you might find on guitars. Essentially, we've got a mass that's mounted on two springs, and the idea is it's a little bit like like a sound cancelling headphone. Now, bear with me, I know we're talking about suspension, we're talking about bikes, and why are we talking about headphones? Okay, we're talking about bump frequencies, and as they come in, you get this big spike and it wiggles down. And that's sort of what happens with your headphones as well. What can happen with a tune mass damper is it can take off the top of this first squiggle. And this is where the science gets really, really complicated, is how you tune that mass and what the mass is and what the springs are. But effectively, it seems, for lots of races, these can make a really big difference. Are we going to see lots more of them? Probably. I know a couple of brands are developing them. We've seen a patent from Fox. So yeah, they've been banned in Formula One. They've been banned in some other forms of motorsport as well, but they seem to work really well in motocross. So will the UCI ban it? Will we see lots more of them? Something definitely to watch. Okay. Another thing we've seen quite a lot of is brake covers. So this was started by Loic Bruni, a man who's, very, very fast and, well, doesn't probably need to slow that much, or you might not think. But we first saw it at Fort William, and these were 3D printed composite covers, and there was a lot of buzz around them in the pits. I was there at the time, and lots of people were asking, was it to cover a new brake? Was it to cover a special rotor? And the gossip on the pits was it was no. Bruni is such a perfectionist, and the specifics of the track at Fort William, where you've got long sections where you're not on the brakes and then sections where you are on the brakes. It was a combination to keep the muck and water off the brakes and also keep the consistent lever feel. Are we going to see more of them? I remember them in the mid-90s, but would you run one on your bike? I think it's interesting. Okay, one thing that we've seen for a little while, and I think it's grown and grown, is, well, I think O-Chain sort of own the market to a degree, but there's lots of other systems out there. And effectively, we're looking at chain damping systems. Now, I'm not talking about sort of DCDs or special kind of rubber sections on chainstays. No, I'm talking about actually these sort of wibbly wobbly bits, for want of a better word, that can help take out some of the pedal kickback, but not affect too much of the anti-squat on the suspension systems. Lots of DH racers have run them. We've seen these kind of creep in on lots and lots of bikes, and that's, well, we'll describe them as O-chain style devices because it's kind of hard to put a name on them. Essentially what we're talking about is a device that fits onto the crank and kind of just moves and allows the sort of pedal kickback that would feed back through the pedals and some of the suspension movement to not feed back, and you can adjust it through various degrees. Neil's ridden one on GMBN, and well, I'll let you watch that video to get your take on it. But for me, I think it's interesting how these have spread from just a few teams and a handful of races to lots and lots of races. Santa Cruz Syndicate are running them, Athertons are running them, so it seems that whichever suspension system you're going to use, there are advantages to them. So from what I've chatted to racers, it's not just about the limiting this pedal kickback, it's also about as you're moving through chattery bumps, it helps eliminate the noise coming through your feet. So as a racer, you can get into that Zen-like flow state and concentrate. But it's not just the kind of on-crank adapters we've seen this year. No, E13 have released its Sidekick hub. Sidekick, not Sidekick. A Sidekick hub would be great, but the Sidekick hub uses some clever pause, which means, well, it sort of engages and then disengages. So again, it limits this feedback through the suspension system to the cranks. It's really interesting. Is it just for downhill bikes? Are we going to see it on trail bikes? It'd be quite interesting to try. Okay, one thing we always hear about pro racers' bikes is that the suspension setup is extremely stiff. I mean, Valley Hole is quoted from World Champs. She'd set a bike up, she really enjoyed riding it, she found it really fun, but she just wasn't on pace. I say wasn't on pace, I think she was second in qualies at World Champs. So she went back to the drawing board, reset the bike up to be, in her words, not as fun, much stiffer, but much, much faster. But one thing that we've seen sneaking in on quite a few bikes is, well, stiffness effectors. I guess we've seen it on the Mondraker bike. They've got a plate on theirs. We've seen Danny Hart's GT go under surgery. We've also seen the Common Sal's run steel chainstays. And is this to boost stiffness, or is this to boost flex? We're not really sure. It'd be interesting to see where this grows. I think we've gone through a phase of bikes being stiffer and stiffer and stiffer, and now maybe we're getting to this point where the geometry works and all of the kind of suspension works really well, and now we're looking for these marginal gains of a little bit of extra rear stiffness flex, or rear stiffness like a boost in stiffness. So it's interesting. How can we talk about downhill tech without talking about electronic suspension systems? Okay, I think we've seen it first on Loic's bike, probably last year or even the year before, where he had some magic buttons which we didn't know what they did. This year Finn got those magic buttons, and well, some RockShox athletes got flight attendant. So we've seen flight attendant in cross country, we've seen it in trail bikes, and now we're seeing prototype stuff in downhill. Whether it works exactly the same in terms of, is it on the fly, is it learning as you ride, or is it a push button system but wireless, a bit like the Öhlins? I think what we can say definitely is that on certain tracks, these have proved a really big advantage. I mean, Fort William, we had sort of, I think, 4 of the electronic bikes in the top 4 in either qualies or around that space. And okay, rider talent is really important, but where there's these tracks where you've got really different segments and really different feels to the tracks, and thus a really different suspension setup, these adjustable electronic suspension systems really seemed to work really well for Loic, for Troy. Interesting to see where this is going to develop. And Fox are releasing Live Valve, or have released, so you can buy it. So we've seen races running it this year in Enduro and in DH, and now you can buy that same tech, which is interesting because Öhlins and RockShox still in the prototype phase. Are we going to see more and more of this electronic stuff in suspension and in DH racing? I think it's inevitable, really. One final thing to say about DH is the retirement of one of the legends of the sport, Greg Minnaar. He did his final race at MSA, a huge, huge storied career. He's going to move into a team director role at Norco, so he's not leaving. So will be around the races. I think I've covered pretty much a lot of ground there, almost everything, but what did I miss? Let us know in the comments below all of the things that you thought were really key tech trends in DH this year. News! Very exciting news. Something has come up out of the ashes, which is the Pivot Phoenix. It is finally launched. Yeah, we've seen the prototype for almost 2 years, and now you can buy it. It's a full carbon race bike. The prototype's been raced by the Pivot Factory race team. It's very, very different from the old bike and very different from anything else on the DH circuit at the moment. So 210 rear travel to match with a 203mm fork, full carbon frame using a DW6 with a dual chain drive. Yeah, this is like something from the Cannondale bikes in the mid-90s, or maybe a Brooklyn Machine Works from the 90s too. Really clever. It's also got I think a flex stay or flex pivot on the rear as well, which is something new, I think, for DW. It's a mixed wheel size bike, sizing from an S1 to S4, so I assume sort of a small to medium, large and extra large. 16 kgs or 35 pounds for the S2, which is, for a downhill bike, really impressive, especially one with 2 chains. Pricing, now, okay, hear me out. It is a top-end race bike, so the pricing is high, but it's not monumental. Starting from $6,899, heading up to $8,499. That's US dollar, which I think for kind of the equivalent of a Formula One car that you can buy is pretty good. Frame kits are also available from $4,799. Again, that's in US dollar. Next up, Rimpact, one of the early innovators in the insert game, has come up with a new chain damper. Yeah, we talked about it in the comments just before with O-Chain and E13 with its Sidekick hub, and now a UK brand that's not that far away from us here has developed an all-new system. They've said it's designed to, well, survive a UK winter, which is a real plus, and hopefully won't need servicing that often. But again, the idea is that it isolates the rider's feet and the crank movements from what the suspension and what the rear wheel is doing. So it should reduce drivetrain feedback. As we mentioned, it's designed to work in a UK winter, which is very good. It's available in a really wide range of sizes. So we've got a 30 tooth up to 36, and it's 11 and 12 speed compatible with a range of different fittings. So we've got Shimano direct mount and SRAM T-type, so it should work across a range of bikes. Weighs around 260 grams, which feels like a good weight for this product, and prices start from £279.99. New PT's rim tape. New hole shot rim tape is one of our favourites here anyway, and it's new and improved. So they've gone back to the drawing board and they've kind of redesigned it with lots of input from pro riders and pro mechanics. It uses premium adhesives to offer more strength and more durability. It's a thicker tape as well, but it's still got the right amount of flex, which as a mechanic myself, I find some of the tapes are just too stiff. So it's good that they've kept that nice amount of flex. Doesn't need rim finishing strips anymore. It's clean removal, so there's no mess when taking it off as well, which is a really nice feature. So yeah, if you've got the old tape and you've had issues, you can send proof of purchase and an email to PT's and they'll send you out some new tape, FOC. Wild news from Orbea. They've got a new wild e-bike. Redesigned from the ground up, and it uses the all-new CX motor from Bosch. Really exciting stuff. It creates a lightweight but full power e-bike. So we've got 85 newton meters of torque, two battery options, a 750 watt hour battery for those really big days, or you can put in a 600, nice optimization. You can also put in a 250 range extender, so that's on the outside, so not inside, for really big days out. Outline of the bike is that it's a full 29er with 170 mil of travel, but you can run it mixed wheel as well by changing over the shock linkage, which is really nice, good adaptability for a bike. There's also a new model, which is the Wild ST, which is tuned for trails. Again, it's 29er, and actually only 29er, but it's 150 mil of travel. I think both bikes will be really interesting to try. I'm kind of on that point of where I like a longer travel e-bike, but a 150 mil travel bike sounds perfect. Let us know in the comments below. Red Bull Rampage. I know we've had racing, and now we're going to the other side of mountain biking, the wildest freeride event that there is. And we've got an incredible bike from Brendan Fairclough and Scott. It's his Red Bull Rampage bike, and it has got a wild paint job, which is apparently inspired by a very special Porsche 911, one of which only 11 were made, which had a winning F1 engine in from the kind of 85 to 86. Very specific. As an older F1 nerd, interesting. I can't remember them. But Brendan's Gambler has got the full tag Porsche turbo paint job. It does look amazing. Will he win this year? Let us know. Cool stuff we've seen online. I think the coolest for me, well, we've got a lot, but Loris Vergier's mechanic has got a really good post about Loris's bike and all the trick stuff that it's got on it. So we've got a tuned mass damper, at least one, possibly two. We've got flight attendant in prototype DH form, which we've not really seen a lot of. We've also got a steering damper on there too. All the bells, all the whistles, but he is a world champ, so he can kind of do what he wants. As a mechanic as well, he is effectively a world champ as well. Tool Bikes is not a brand that I've seen a lot of, the band I've heard of, but they've got a new DH bike at Mount St Anne. It was fully CNC'd, so sort of two halves glued together and bonded rather, high pivot. I think it looks stunning, really impressive. Reminds me of some of the work from a sort of Finnish brand that's now drifted away, sadly. And finally from MSA, it was really cool to see lots of the EDR Enduro people race DH. So Hattie Harden did it, Jesse Melamed, Isabeau Kujura, I'm sorry if I'm saying your surname wrong. But yeah, they were all there racing. It was really fun. Isabeau's bike was really cool. It was the recently re-released Lapierre Spicy, and it got a set of boxes on the front and in the high pivot configuration. This is a bike that you can run in a high or low setting, and there was lots of adjustments on that bike, but really good to see it at a DH race. Let us know which was your favourite. Finally, don't forget to enter the competition on the Dirt Shed Show, where you can win an ergonomic bundle from our wonderful partners, Ergon. Quiz time! I really like quiz time, and it would appear lots of you did. So last week's question, what does PNW stand for? And it was Pacific Northwest. And, well, I did say it was going to be an easier one, and gee, a lot of you got it right. Love that so many people are, entering the competition. It's really fun, and it is just for pride points. So, this week's question, I think it's a good challenge, this one. Which brand of bike did Greg Minnaert win his first elite male downhill World Cup on? Let us know in the comments below. Top Top Mod. This is where you can send in your bikes where you've done amazing modifications to them. And this one is from Rick in Half Moon Bay in California. And I think this is probably in the running for the ultimate cockpit clean setup because it's just incredible. He's got a stealth setup with a customized SRAM blit box. So that's the kind of plug-in unit for the electronic system from SRAM, the Axis, hidden inside an NV stem. And the rest of the bike is super clean as well. It's just amazing. There's just so many good parts on this bike. It's super impressive. Let us know in the comments below, what's your favorite part? Is it the cranks? Is it the hidden blit box? Lots of great stuff. And we've got another bike here, this one from Mike in Sweden. He bought it for park laps and play riding. Basically built up a mini DH or huge slopestyle. Is that a new category? Big slopestyle, I like it. Mostly built from budget parts from old bikes of his and budget parts that he bought new. He's removed all the gears and the dropper post. He's made it single speed. He's got custom paint as well. Yeah, is this Jib Joro? Well, I like that. That is a good term. Yeah, let us know in the comments. New thing, Jib Joro. The comments, yes, my favourite bit of the show, hopefully yours. If it's not, get involved in the comments and we'll probably read some of your comments out. We all get involved on the channel in the comments and it's good. It's a good sense of community, good chats in there. And we've got a first comment here from Ish474. This is all about do more complicated bikes actually make bikes more simple? So he said, have I ever climbed or used my climb switch and got to the top of the trail, forgot to turn off my climb switch and been locked out on that first jump? He's had that happen. I've had that happen. Have you had that happen? It's awkward. Maybe electronics would stop it. Okay, Rider65, strong counterpoint. He says, of course not. It's absurd to even suggest such idiocy. Electronics and advanced tech have ruined all forms of wheeled sports. Autos, motorcycles and bicycles, whilst making them unaffordable and unreliable. Bold call there. Agree or disagree? Have a chat in the comments. Glenn Hunt is saying, so we're on the cusp of just pressing the go button and hanging on. I'm not sure we're there, but he's saying all we need now is a Boston Dynamics rider and we don't even have to go outside and we can get nature all over us in a kind of all-in-one. Boston Dynamics are the people who make lots of robots that look very, very human-like, so just FYI. The Vaping Polisher 9717 says, a good aggressive hardtail will make life simpler. I've got to agree, hardtails are awesome. Right, okay, I think that's the comments wrapped up. Key though is getting involved in the comments. Please do, I'm there, I'm commenting. Looking forward to having a chat in there. Right, finally, what are we looking forward to this week? I'm looking forward to a big chunk of huge, gnarly freeride bikes. We've had a teaser before from Blake, and now we're going to have some amazing bikes from Red Bull Rampage. Yeah, I think that sort of wraps up the show. We've covered a lot of tech. We've covered a lot of downhill trends. What are the downhill trends that you think are going to take off, and which ones are going to parallel from the racetrack and between the tapes to on the trail? Which ones are going to be the most successful? Tune mass dampers? Possibly. Let us know.